and this is our plan of attack.
Banks have become an essential threat to our democracy. So consider this
justice.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. Please help support this station so this battle can continue forward. Revolution Radio!
This is our bank. This is our war. And this is our plan of
Do
attack.
you or someone you know suffer from poor circulation, shortness of breath, or chest pain? Are you looking for a more natural solution to help overcome these problems? People tell us that after just a few months taking Extendivite, their doctors have noticed unexplainable improvements in their overall health. For more information, visit heartdrop.com or call 1-877-928-8822.
Extend your life.
And tell them Nighthawk sent you, because if you call this number and tell them Nighthawk sent you, you'll get $5 off your first order at extendivite.com. Thank you. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website.
I'm here.
Hosts, guests, call-in listeners, or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily...
No problem. Do I have enough time to go hit the restroom?
Esoteric universe.
Okay, be right back.
As the cosmic oracle, she is a conduit to the powers that be, to answer your questions about your future self, past lives, current career, love. She shines light into the darkness to illuminate what was, what may be, and beyond.
I'm here.
The readings and advice given by Barbara Jean Lindsey are for entertainment purposes only. They should not take the place of any medical, legal, or financial advice given to you by a qualified professional.
Hello, Michael. Yes, you have a moment. I just heard that you asked for a moment, and you do have one if you need it.
If you need to expand
there was a little bit of problem there with the beginning of the show, but we're just going to carry on. Welcome to the Cosmic Oracle Show. This is your host, Barbara Jean Lindsey. It is Friday, and it is January 18th, 2019. And we have so far raised this month for Revolution Radio $1,591. And we do need $2,500 a month to keep Revolution Radio going on the air, keeping the lights on and things happening. And it's an all-volunteer station, so no one gets paid for their efforts here. We all do this because we want the truth out, and we have the freedom then to bring on whoever we want and talk about whatever we want with total freedom and not have any kind of a commercial, Big Daddy kind of hanging over us. So it's a joy to be here today, and we have a special guest that I'm excited to bring on to the show, and that would be Michael Lee Hill. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about Michael before he comes on. He has quite a background, and I had the pleasure to meet him at Janet and Sasha Lesson's event at the Stargate conference, and we just had an amazing time, everyone, and a whole camaraderie was built with people there for future. It seems like it was an event that really catapulted a lot of connections, like with Penny Bradley, who's on Facebook right now, and some of our other friends. So,
hey, Penny.
Yeah, there's Michael. So Michael Lee Hill's an award-winning musician, a filmographer, and a UFO experiencer. His footage of the Lake Erie UFOs has created a Billy Meyer-like buzz, and Michael seems to have developed an intuitive relationship with these crafts. In his home state of Ohio, Michael has been cataloging video after video of UFOs over Lake Erie, and the phenomena consist almost entirely of pulsating orbs of light, unusual light, seeing changing colors, converging and separating over the lake. Stories of the unexplained phenomena date back over 150 years to the indigenous North American Indian tribes. And Michael's Lake Erie UFO footage has been featured on Fox News Coast to Coast. And on the UFO Hunters Alien Contact episode, the UFO hunters decide to test Michael Lee Hill's blood, and it is revealed that Michael has an unknown, very rare blood anomaly bloodline that the world's best military and civilian doctors are at a loss to explain. A Harvard doctor uncovered non-normal human elevated levels of creatine kinase in Michael's bloodstream. So, Michael, you're an Anunnaki contactee experiencer, and you have quite a story to tell the world. And so we had you on the Cosmic Oracle show about 2 years ago, and there's been so much that I've been just kind of following in the back of your life has just taken such a wild, strange turns all the way. And so maybe you could kind of fill us in on what's going on. And I know you had something very specific to talk about today. So welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. Yeah, it's been a heck of a roller coaster ride. It's fun though, you know, it's like all of a sudden life got its magic and mystery back. But, where to start? Being an Anunnaki contactee, that's what led to actually what I'm really excited to talk to you and everybody about, and that is what I learned from the Anunnaki. But as you said, that began because of me filming these UFOs over Lake Erie, and the footage began to go viral. Right now, if people want to see this footage, go to my YouTube channel. It's called Michael Lee Hill, and you'll see it's over 5 million views, and that's what brought the History Channel to my door. And next thing I knew, they had me involved in an episode. As you said, it's called Alien Contact, and they flew me to Boston to have, at the time I didn't know what they were flying me to Boston for, by the way. Pretty smart on their part, because I do not like needles, and I might have refused, but they flew me there to have my blood work done by a Harvard professor. His name was David Systrom. And it was revealed in that episode that, you know, I had some anomalies in my blood that they just can't figure out. Like you said, it's elevated levels of creatine kinase. Just real quickly to touch on that, the normal amounts of creatine kinase, or CK, in the human bloodstream is 25 parts per liter of blood. But if you've had muscle damage, or, you know, heart attack, or, you know, anything that involves tearing of muscle tissue, your brain kicks up those levels of that enzyme, the CK enzyme, to around 300 tops, and that's because it brings more oxygen into the bloodstream to facilitate healing for that damaged area. So if normal levels are 25 parts per liter of blood, what they found in my blood was levels of 2100, and with no medical reason though of why I would have those levels. I'm in perfect health. Matter of fact, they asked the doctor if he had any kind of insight into what this might be. And he said, well, no, you know, he said, what do you think unknown means? But if I had to, you know, that's actually, it's funny, the last day of the production shoot is when I found out that they confirmed I had this blood anomaly. They're like, yeah, your plane's waiting for you. And I was like, wait a minute, man. You know, this isn't a TV show anymore. What the hell are you talking about? But he said if he had to make a guess, he would think that it was some kind of virus that nobody knows about. And he said most people think of viruses as being a bad thing, but they're actually one of the only things that can work at the level of DNA. He said he would think that there was some kind of unknown virus that was tricking the brain into releasing these massive amounts of creatine kinase into the bloodstream. And by the way, that extra oxygen into the bloodstream that CK brings equates to how much chi or prana life force, you're holding at a cellular level. So you could look at it as, having an extra pool of chi to work with, as being an energy healer, or, working with subtle energies. It becomes a nice tool. But from what I understand, a lot of people might be of the bloodline and have these elevated levels and have extra pools of chi, and they just don't know it. I never knew it until 2008. And if you're not taught to use it, then it just lies dormant. So, but I can't say this story will lead to being contacted by the remote viewers / reverse engineering section of the NSA. And they told me that they had about 200 people part of their group, and 12 of those had my bloodline. And they said my levels of 2100 would put me in the middle of those 12. So with that, though, as I said, they're like, well, your plane's waiting for you. And they just sent me home, and I had no idea what the hell they were talking about or what any of this was about. But then about, 5 months later, is in the summer of 2008, I went to a festival called Sirius Rising. It's funny because now I know the Anunnaki are the Syrians, but at that time I had no clue. And I didn't even know what an Anunnaki was. And they met me there and let me know that they were not human. They appeared faceless at first. I thought that was pretty crazy. I know it sounds crazy to the listeners, but it was really interesting. At one of the most recent Star Knowledge conferences, afterwards, Chief Blue Star Eagle came up to me and he said, I want you to know I met the faceless ones as well. And it was a beautiful experience. And it was really nice to hear someone of his stature. He's he's passed now. He's dropped his robes. But he's revered in the Native American Indian community. So it was nice to just know I'm not crazy, because to tell someone you met someone that became faceless in front of you, I know what it sounds like. You know what I mean? But, it is what it is, though.
It doesn't happen every day, So, it would totally change your paradigm of how you think and what's going on, and wow, what's up with that?
It started a really strange journey, let me tell you, because what they said is, first of all, this is in 2008. There was no Ancient Aliens on TV. I had no clue what an Anunnaki even was. They told me, in your past, we was known as the Anunnaki. And they said, you were known as Enki, the water bearer. Well, you can imagine, I can't wait to get into the water part of this, because 2008, that didn't make too much sense, but now it does. It took 10 years to, for it all to come clear. But at that time, I had no clue who Enki, or the water bearer, or the Anunnaki was. So this all sounded like I was dropped into a weird cosmic Scooby-Doo episode,
Download this, boom.
Yeah. So, that began a weird trip for me, because in the end of 2008, 2009, because of what I told you, I didn't know who Enki was or is. And I said, listen, because I've learned to meditate and tune in. And during a deep state of meditation, I was in contact with these beings. And I said, listen, I don't know what you're talking about. And I just don't know even if I'm going insane. How about if you are who you say you are, and I am who you say I am, you encode the names Enki into a crop circle. I'm a student of that subject. I can guarantee you I will take notice, and that'll be my confirmation. And then my next thought was, what a silly request,
That ain't ever gonna happen, right? That's probably what you're thinking. That's not ever gonna happen.
Yeah, and even if it did happen, I'm like, what the hell? A big crop circle on a field with Enki written in cursive. It's like, well, what the hell is that gonna do? But then all of a sudden, this other thought came to me. Then it's like, well, if you are who you say you are, you'll figure out a way to do it. And then I got really cocky. I said, while you're at it, encode it with something only I would be able to decode. And then I just sat back, and 2 years went by and no magic Enki crop circle showed up. But during that 2-year span, they started guiding me and inspiring me to understand what I term as the most cosmic harmonious frequencies. And what this entails is, I'm sure your listeners are pretty hip to the idea of sacred geometry, that everything from the atom to the galaxy is adhering to very specific geometry, the golden mean, the Fibonacci sequence, and you find out that everything in life is adhering to this very specific geometry. Well, if that's the case, before we kind of thought that the only way to get to geometry was through high mathematics. But what they found out recently through a scientific new pathway of discovery is called cymatics, and which is making frequency visible. They can pump frequency through a water medium with a high-tech camera on the top, and they can see exactly when geometry forms and when it's most perfect. And you could think of this almost like a radio in your car, like an old car. You got a dial on it, and you're going to go from low frequencies to high frequencies. Along that journey, you're going to tune into a radio station, right? And at one point, it's going to have the clearest reception. And then as you move to the right, it's going to get more and more noise added until it's nothing but noise. Then you'll tune into a different geometry or a frequency. This is the same thing, it takes the people's own opinion out of it, which I love. Let's get to the science of this and where is perfect geometry formed? Well, it turns out that 432 hertz is the granddaddy frequency of everything. It is truly the only frequencies that are components of light, and everything is made from light. We can get into that. But I can tell you, I'm just going to skip ahead because I just had a huge revelation regarding this from them. And they told me, 369, Tesla said once we understand the magnificence of the 3, the 6, and the 9, we would unlock a key to the universe. Well, this voice is like, you do realize 369 implies a Fibonacci sequence. No, so they said, well, every number is derived from the 2 before it. So you take 3, 6, 9. Well, 9 and 6 is 15. And you just keep going. And when you get to about the 15th place of that Fibonacci sequence that starts with 3, 6, 9, it lands on 432. That's interesting, huh? But what had happened was they were guiding me into this cosmic harmonious frequency subject matter. And what I had done is, because I'm a musician first and foremost, I tracked down every note of the musical scale and its accompanying accurate cymatic image, the geometry that's created from that specific frequency. And I make these, I call them ancient Anunnaki energy discs. And since you have one, you could tell them as well. What it is a cymatic image that's encased in quartz crystal glass. And it's got a copper wrap that goes around it. And the idea is that any subtle energy that image, which if you go along with the idea that some geometry has subtle energy attached to it, like pyramid power. Well, 432 is the grandmother of them all. And so what I found out was during making this disc set, what you'll find in this new science is the lower the frequency, the more simpler the geometry. That lower frequencies, so if you think about, if you want real nice clean lines, you go to lower frequencies to get a 5-pointed star or a 6-pointed star or a 7-pointed star. And that's what happened is I found out that a 27 hertz pulse was creating this beautiful pattern that was based around a 7-pointed star. But now to get back to the crop circle I asked for in late 2000. Yeah, it all comes back together. I asked them to encode it with something only I would be able to decode, and to encode the names Ea, Enki into it. And in 2011, you can go to YouTube right now and just type in EA, which is EA, Enki, ENKI, crop circle, and you'll be taken to information on this crop circle. It showed up in 2011, and what happened was it was based off a 7-pointed star, which at this point I didn't see the correlation yet, but at every point of that 7-pointed star, there were 7 rows of binary code. You know, it would be like ... empty, ... empty. Then the next one would be different, and you know, seeing a picture of it is worth a million words. So just go check this out. But what happened was once you decode those strings of ASCII binary code, it said EA space Enki. And I was like, wow, they answered my request. You know what I mean? So that crop circle became very important to me. And I started the same day that I made my first disc of the musical note set, the 7-disc set. I also made one disc before I did that of this EA Enki crop circle, and I encased that in this quartz crystal and made one of these, and just thought, well, that's interesting. Set it aside. I made the musical notes disc set, and when I got to the last note, it was an A note. And once I made it, I'm holding it in my hand, and I'm noticing it's a perfect 7-pointed star. And I thought, it didn't hit me at first. I'm like, why does this look so familiar? And I couldn't get it. My brain just would not put 2 and 2 together. And I was getting frustrated, actually, because I knew something was going on. And this voice is like, just relax, chill out. It'll come to you. You know, you know what this is about. You can't force it. You need to relax into it. So I sat there and go, okay, I'm going to meditate and try not to think about it. 15 minutes goes by, no revelations come. There's nothing happening. Well, I'm like, well, hopefully I'll remember about all this, and maybe tomorrow the answer will come. At that moment, I looked over and I looked down, and I seen that EA Enki crop circle disc that I just made, and I seen its 7-pointed star in the middle of it, and I went, oh my God, they did encode it with something only I would be able to decode, which was, you know, its connection to the 432 hertz frequency. And I'm going to stop this after this because it goes into what we're going to get into in the end. But what happened was I found out 1 year prior to this EA Enki crop circle showing up in Italy, 1 year prior in the exact same field, another crop circle showed up. And you can see it's the same creator of the crop circle. And that one encoded E equals MC squared. And in ASCII binary code as well. So I had learned already because of the Arecibo crop circle message that was sent out that we told them we want to communicate in ASCII binary code. It's like our own rule to, like, if you want to talk to us, talk in binary code, because that's what all our computers are based off of and everything. And with a message that we sent out from Arecibo, we told them how to communicate with us. Well, I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. What I want to say, the Arecibo one, a lot of people know that we sent out this message, we got a response, and next to it was a face. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
I do.
Cool. Well, at the bottom of it was the crop circle that shows how we transmitted the communication on our message from Carl Sagan that was sent out by NASA. It's a radio dish at the bottom of it. But in their reply, it was like mind bubbles coming out from a middle bubble. Well, what you'll find is 1 year prior in that crop circle, there was an HD version of that bottom symbol put in this exact same field as the Arecibo response. And that's mind-blowing to me because no one seems to know about it or talk about it. But I know, you know, and I am talking about it. And it was the same thing. I'm like, I know that they use crop circles in a multidimensional way through time to communicate what they're trying to communicate with you. So instantly I went, well, what does the 432 hertz subject have to do with E equals MC squared? And it's, you know, E is energy, M is mass, and C is the speed of light squared. Well, where all this leads is our quantum physicists now know everything is both particle and wave. But E equals mc squared is only the particle part of the equation, right? It's right, m, mass. So where's the frequency component? It's kind of hidden, because what you find out is 432 squared becomes c. 432 squared becomes the speed of light. Squared times mass equals energy when you run the equation backwards. So the only frequencies that attune you with galactic light frequencies are 432 base frequencies. And so just to put this in a nutshell, 432 base frequencies squared becomes c, squared times mass, which in what we're going to get into is photons equals energy. And so that's how they began teaching me about how 432 will lead mankind into unlimited free energy. Now, the kicker is, I know how crazy this all sounds, but because of interviewing with Richard Hoagland recently, he said, Michael, you know, we know that your story sounds crazy to most people, but for people who don't know who Richard Hoagland is, he is a NASA spokesperson. He was Walter Cronkite's science advisor. He's the NASA guy that revealed that there was a face on Mars. He said NASA has been looking into, he calls it hyperdimensional physics, or how energy works in a multidimensional multiverse. And he said, your numbers are right on the money. He said, NASA knows that what you're bringing to the table is correct. And so he said, we want to have these disks that are encoding these frequencies tested by a NASA consulting leading biophysicist. And he arranged it to happen. And we just got back the results, and it's kind of historic. They're actually freaked out. It's created results that they've never seen before. And just, you know, the end of I think it's the most important thing, but one of those discs, all you got to do is use it as a coaster, and it will revitalize, resurrect, restructure dead municipal tap water back into a spring level of energetics within the water. That's mind-blowing. Truly free energy.
It's historical. It's a game changer.
It is. Because, you know, this is leading me, first of all, it's a passive device. It's an image encased in crystal, and it's got a copper wrap. There's no wires going to it. There's no moving parts, but somehow the water's listening. And if you could imagine the code that is being sent along this, I like to look at it as a galactic cosmic 5G, you know, Wi-Fi, that to give the water molecule the code to revitalize itself and ignite into a little miniature supernova of light within that water molecule has got to be more code than we can even imagine. But, you know, I'm thinking there's a way to tap into this that's non-polluting. It doesn't hurt our bodies like 5G. Like, I'll tell you what, now that I've been talking to a lot of these biophysicists, and they're the world leaders in this, they're really concerned with 5G. I can just tell you that. I'm learning about it right now. But by the way, I got to tell you, this biophysicist that did the work, she invited me to come to a conference in this July, speaking to the world's leading biophysicists regarding the results of these testing. And I find it so funny. I'm like, I don't know. When am I going to tell them? The Anunnaki told me to do it, you know? Sure, yeah, I'll go.
Well, you wanted a challenge, you know. So, and you don't have a boring life, so you asked for this, Michael.
I'm drinking 432 water right now, so
yeah, I've been drinking it too.
It's something else, ain't it?
Yeah, it really is. And you know, it reminds me. It feels like like a connector. It's a connector, right? That's what it feels like. Where if you want to. This is real basic, but it's where if you want to go to LA and you need a map to get there, this is kind of like your disc is a map. It's like how to get there, how to get from one point to the other. That's it in a beautiful way, like where music can say 1,000 words in a, you know, like that. So
yes. Yes. I've not felt energy like this since I've been a teenager. I got to a point I had to drink a pot of coffee to even get going in the morning. And then in the middle of the day, I would have some 5-hour energy shots. But now I've been drinking, what this biophysicist told me, because what they did was they had from California, they took municipal tap water. And I think I sent you some of that. Maybe you pop that up for the listeners. They did a control untreated sample, and they took 6 pictures of it, and it was one water droplet, and it was almost dead. There was no light component. And then what they did was they put that glass of water on one of my discs, and they let it sit for 15 minutes, and then they took another 6 pictures. Then they let it sit for 30 minutes, and they took another 6 pictures. But then they let it sit for 50 minutes, and they took another 6 photos. What you can see is the increase in the brightness, the luminosity coming out of the water cell. In 50 minutes, it grew by 7%. And it grew from being dead to looking like a little star in the middle of it. And it's pretty incredible. But she's like, Michael, it's not done yet. She said, at 50 minutes, I can tell it's still increasing. She said, I would recommend she wants to do a 24-hour study and, put a glass of water. But she said right now, and anyone that's interested in this, and maybe a lot of people own my discs already, I just didn't know it would do this. All you do is you use it as a coaster. And at night, she suggested, and I've been doing this, put a glass of water on it and let it sit overnight. And then every morning, that's your morning ritual, is to have a glass of 432 water. And then I fill up the glass, I put more, put it back on the disc. And then during the day when I need a glass of water, I've been drinking about maybe 5 or 6 glasses of this water a day. And let me tell you, because of this, I didn't know water was alive or had memory like most other people on the planet. I never knew. So I've been doing a crash course on educating myself on, it's called Living Water, structured water. And I would highly recommend looking into this because it's important for our health, our well-being in this planet. But what they showed was this guy had, they pinpricked his finger, they took a droplet of blood, put it under a microscope. These were doctors on one of these documentaries. And they showed his blood cells, and they were all stagnant, and they were stuck together. They said, this is what causes heart disease. This is what causes diabetes. And then they had him drink a Dixie cup container of the structured water, because there's many ways to get to this effect of restructuring water. You can run it through high magnetic fields. You can vortex it and spin it. But this is the first time they've ever seen something that's just truly passive have the kind of effects on water that this is having, even more so over these other techniques, which is fascinating. But they took a Dixie cup of the structured water. They gave it to this guy. They waited 12 minutes only. Then they pinpricked his blood again and put it under the microscope. Now every blood cell had like this membrane of light energy, like this force field around the blood cell. And they're all moving. They're bouncing off of each other. It's like bumper cars, And so the fact of the matter is, what they said is, this is interesting because municipal tap water has been destroyed. There's no energetics left in it. It said the reason we're dying when we're 60 or 70 years old is truly because of dehydration. Mm-hmm. The water we're drinking is not hydrating our cells because there's no more energy left in it, because we've killed it. And so I think that's a very important question for mankind, is how did we let this happen? Because it's truly...
And that we're mainly... we're made up of water. It's essential to life itself.
Yes, and now they're finding out water has memory and it's truly alive. So I think it's so important. But what I was going to say is, this is new for me as well. I never knew water had memory and was alive. And I've been drinking this water now for about a month. And I've never felt this kind of energy. It's with coffee, you get the jitters and you get coffee gut, or whatever. This is like a pure, clean energy. I just feel great. So I want to share it with the world.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I have it and I'm using it. And while you're talking, I was thinking of what it could do for the oceans and for healing water.
Exactly. You're reading my mind, because truly what I want to start is a grassroots movement of, they said, Michael, you were known in the past as the water bearer.
Well, now
now, it kind of makes sense now. But at the same time, I'm like, why don't we all become water bearers? Because the truth of the matter is, what they know is right now I got a glass. I just got 300 new coasters, by the way, that have really vibrant an image of it. And what a nice, cheap way to be able to bring this technology to the world is through a coaster. You know what I mean?
And everyone can have a coaster.
Yes, but that can make everyone becoming a water bearer. Because what I found out is, right now this glass of water that I have sitting on top of the 432 image, it's going to restructure the water and bring back its divine blueprint of energetics into each water molecule. But here's the deal. If you take one drop of this water and put it in another glass that was never introduced to the 432 frequency, it will restructure that whole glass of water as well, or a whole waterway. How far does it travel and how fast does it go? Very good question. But so what I'm saying is everyone, get yourself a coaster. It's $20 right now. And charge a glass of water or a water bottle. I like glass better, but it does do the same thing to a water bottle. And then take it to your local streams and your local creeks, your local rivers and lakes and ponds and oceans. And what I want to do is I'm going to start become a water bearer grassroots movement and say what we want you to do, what I want you to do. It's nice, though. I got David Sarita's team behind me now on a business level, which is beautiful. They're doing such a great job because that's not my gig, I'm a guitar player. But anyhow.
Right.
So
aspect of you. This is another aspect of you. Yeah,
it's all related, though. It is music and having frequency, at a cellular level. But so if everyone, what I want people to do is go and take your bottle of water that you've charged with a 432 coaster or a pendant or these discs, the crystal quartz discs that I create, and go to a water way, any of those that we mentioned, and take a photo of you pouring the water into that local waterway. Send me the picture. I'm going to give you access to a 44-minute meditation video that I'm going to be creating, because I'm going to create my own brand new 7 musical disc set with the accurate cymatic image for that frequency. So everyone that does this, I'm going to give them access to the video that comes with the A disc. And so you can actually listen to it. And I'll tell you part of the secret, man. Some people have told me not to get into this, but what's fascinating is the image that created the 432 frequency is it's a special, just because you use a waveform generator and pump 432 through a cymatic device, you're not going to get my image. Matter of fact, it blew away the team at CymaScope. They said, we've used this technology to image every frequency known to mankind. We've used this to image dolphin sounds. They've used it to anything that you want to image. If you want to commemorate your baby's first baby noises, send them an audio sample of your baby making a noise, and they'll show you what it looks like as a cymatic image. Mm-hmm. So I hired them to image my 20-second sound file that I sent them of my 432 frequency. But they said we had never imaged an electric rock guitar amp before. I sent them a 432 from my Joe Satriani and Eddie Van Halen amp, set up in stereo, by the way. No one knows that either. And I used my Steve Vai guitar that I won. He chose me as the winner of his guitar contest back in 2001. So first of all, it was because of winning the Steve Vai contest that he gave me the guitar. And then because of that, I met Joe Satriani, and he ended up offering me an amp deal, endorsement deal, to use his line of guitar amplifiers. And then Eddie Van Halen, that's just because I'm a Van Halen freak. But talk about rock god magic. You know what I mean? The actual tone generator of the file I sent them was really good tube-driven guitar amps, and vacuum tubes are organic, I can't even talk. But the scientists at Simoscope said that's why they think that the image I sent them created an image that was more dimensional, had more structure and complexity than anything they'd ever seen. And they asked me for my permission to release the full 20 seconds as a experimental video showing the image being created in real time. So of course I said yes. And that video is now up at simoscope.com. Just go to the video section.
Sure.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And
Cymatic, did you say? I'm sorry, I talked over you. Cymatic.org, did you say?
Simoscope.
Oh, Simoscope.
Yeah, CYMASCOPE.com. Okay. Yeah, Simon means wave, and the scope is this new science that they have to show you. It's really revolutionary, because I can tell you this, for seekers of truth and people who are looking in the crop circles, because some of them are very real, and it isn't two old dudes with planks of wood on their feet, But
I've been there for many, many years. I went, and the difference. You can feel the energy.
But yeah. So it's all led to us talking right now.
Yeah, we just went there, didn't we?
Yeah.
I went right there.
But this gets weird because, for the timeline of what we're talking about, this was late 2008 that I asked them for the Enki crop circle. That showed up in 2011. Like I said, then I found out about the E equals MC squared, and a year prior, that crop circle. But then they led me to understand the connection between the 7-pointed star and the 432 subject and E equals MC squared, as we said. But I felt like I was not able to communicate that information to humanity, and it bothered me. I'm talking until last year now. It was 10 years of having this knowledge in my brain and feeling like I've not communicated this correctly. And one night I felt compelled to just take a photo of that 7-pointed star disc in my hand, and then I married it with a picture of the Enki crop circle that's based off of a 7-pointed star, the 2011 one. I put those two in a meme, and this is on June 4th, 2018. And all I said was, somebody is trying to tell us something. And I released that, and I told Sarah, I was so excited. She's gotten used to me now, like waking up in the middle of the night and going, Sarah, I got to go do math. Thank God she puts up with me. But that day on June 4th that I released that meme, and I was happy with the results and what had been communicated, lo and behold, in UK, along that line, that ley line, which we'll get into that goes through, Stonehenge and Avebury and all that, a new 7-pointed star crop circle showed up on the same day. I felt like I finally communicated the importance of the 7-pointed star. So I thought that was very telling, but then they really started to use crop circles to fill in the blanks, and it gets into a whole nother subject, actually, of Archangel Michael and his connection to the Michael ley line. Right. And we'll get into all that. It gets pretty deep, and I'm looking forward to getting into it.
I want to go into that right after the break. We are coming up to a break. So when we come back, maybe we can start with that. So, Yeah, we
I'll actually write that down for myself.
Okay, I actually did. So
Cool.
Archangel Michael ley line crop circles. Yeah.
Yes. More related than we know.
More than we know. And have you been to the crop circles yet, Michael? Have you been there?
No, never. I can't
We have to go, okay?
Yeah, I'll tell you what they've communicated to me, and I'd love to talk to you about it. And that is a whole journey along this ley line, the St. Michael and Mary ley line. Isn't that something?
I would love to. I've been there. I went like 5 years in a row, 4 years in a row, and I have a lot of contacts there, and I just would love to do something with you there. If we could create that, I just have a really amazing feeling about that. So
I got some amazing info to share with you and what this is all about, because it does involve a trip there, and the more the merrier, right?
And you know, but we connect together with bring it home to the people to share. That's what it's about. Where we go together, right?
Right on. Yeah, that's what I said. You know, let's figure this stuff out together. I have no desire to be the only one like that does nothing for me. I keep saying I think the time of a king or an emperor, that's over. The time of the council is here. Yeah,
I like that. I like that a lot. It seems healing and much needed on this planet right now.
Indeed.
So I think we're getting ready to go on a break. Perfect. We're doing it in a different way. So I'll let you just take a little break, and then
How long is this break, by the way?
Until 6 o'clock. And so it's like a 9-minute break. So I should be back at 6.
I'll refill my 432 glass.
Okay. We'll clink together when you get back.
Right on.
Okay.
Cool.
We'll see you in just a few. And hang in there, everybody. We're coming to a break right now. And it's done a little differently here on Revolution Radio. So I don't want to talk over what we're doing here. So let's see if indeed that is happening. We'll see.
We will be still talking, though. It's just going to be telepathic.
So I should be back at 6.
I'll refill my 432 glass.
Okay. So clink together when you get back.
Right on.
Okay.
Cool.
We'll see you in just a few. And hang in there, everybody. We're coming to a break right now. And it's done a little differently here on Revolution Radio. So I don't want to talk over what we're doing here. So let's see if indeed that is happening. We'll see.
We will be still talking, though. It's just going to be telepathic.
So I should be back at 6.
I'll refill my 432 glass.
Okay. So clink together when you get back.
Right on.
Okay.
Cool.
We'll see you in just a few. And hang in there, everybody. We're coming to a break right now. And it's done a little differently here on Revolution Radio. So I don't want to talk over what we're doing here. So let's see if indeed that is happening. We'll see.
We will be still talking, though. It's just going to be telepathic.
So I should be back at 6.
I'll refill my 432 glass.
Okay. So clink together when you get back.
Right on.
Okay.
Cool.
We'll see you in just a few. And hang in there, everybody. We're coming to a break right now. And it's done a little differently here on Revolution Radio. So I don't want to talk over what we're doing here. So let's see if indeed that is happening. We'll see.
We will be still talking, though.
are waiting for the break. It should have been here by now. So we're talking telepathically to everyone. I hope you're tuned in. We should be back momentarily at the top of the hour in just 10 minutes with Michael Lee Hill. He will be talking to us about the Archangel Michael ley lines and their importance, historic importance with the crop circles that have been appearing in the Avebury area for many, many years. For the break. Should be here. We're having this just kind of a wild little bit of a interlude here. So we should be back momentarily at the top of the hour in 15 minutes with Michael Lee Hill. He will be talking to us about the Archangel Michael ley lines and their so hang in there with us. It should be just here in a moment or two or three. Thanks for tuning in today, and I will take a moment while we're waiting to say hello to all of those that joined in so far this evening. We have Lisa Klein and Cheryl Morris, hello, and Tracy Miller and Penny Bradley and Frank Robinson and Mallory Cardenas, and we have Robin Michael Bush and Mohammed Sayurkri Ben Maludin. We have Shar, welcome back, Shar, and Linda Burton. And Susan Long, thank you for posting all of that into the Facebook comments page. And Mayor Rubin, and Pamela Angel, and Sarah, and Ken Murphy. And I know, Ken, you know how to play the guitar. You won Battle of the Bands in Sacramento. So I'm not sure what's going on. So we should be going to break. Hi, Corina, Pinilaka, Peter, hello from Hawaii. So we're just going to take a moment and work with this telepathically until we go to break. And be here. And I know, Ken, you know how to play the guitar. You won Battle of the Bands in Sacramento. So I'm not sure what's going on. So
That sounds weird, huh?
it does. It just, all of it sounds weird. It should have already been to break. We should be on break, and we're just
That started. That sounds weird.
Doesn't it? It's like we are having a party, a telepathic party here. So I guess it should have.
Do you want to call me back, or?
No, I think I'm just going to go off of the studio, and it's just not going to break, and so maybe.
That sounds weird, huh?
Yeah, I've never had that happen before. Sounds weird.
Whoa.
So I think what we'll do is
That sounds weird.
It does. All of it sounds weird.
I think we're time looping.
I think we are doing something here.
Oh. Maybe we could sing with ourselves now.
Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is, I don't want to lose you though. I'd rather, I'm going to turn off the other part and at least keep this going live, okay? Yeah, I've never had that happen. All right, so, wow. Can you feel that too? It's like someone saying hello.
I think we're time looping.
I think we are. It's funny too.
I think we're time looping.
I guess so.
I think we're time looping.
Okay, I'm gonna stop that. There we go.
Yeah, that sounds much better.
Oh my God. So welcome back. I guess we're not going to have a break at all. I don't know why. This is very unusual, but we'll roll with it, right?
Yeah.
So
you got to roll with the punches to get to what's real.
I guess so.
David Lee Roth. I quote David Lee Roth a lot.
Oh, you do. You would.
All right.
Yeah, we're not going to break. So welcome back, everyone, to to the Cosmic Oracle Show. We have Michael Lee Hill with us. And without further ado,
I've been on a break for like a half hour.
I know. It seems like forever, huh? What's in that water, Michael? Okay, what's in the water?
Don't drink the water.
So welcome back, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmic Oracle Show. And now we're all back in sync, and we're just going to roll with this. So after you've had your water, your wonderful water with a tune to 432 hertz, and it's such a healing modality, right? It's such a gift. Our water.
It really is. It is. I'm just so excited about it because, first of all, when you learn water as memory, and like I said, one drop of it will restructure and bring those attributes, which, by the way, don't let me forget to tell you, before all this happened, Chief Golden Light Eagle told me why I was coming to Florida to be with Sarah, and it involved the release of this technology.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I guess while I brought it up, it's a perfect time. Before I came here last year, I met Sarah at the Serpent Mound total eclipse ceremony, and it's called a snake dance, and we were partnered up, and there's kind of some crazy cosmic things that, like, the stars aligned, and all of a sudden Sarah was right in front of me, and I just felt this heart connection. And Chief Golden Light Eagle looked at me and he said, "Michael." That's my Chief Golden Light Eagle. It's love and respect to Michael. You in love yet?
News. A visiting Syrian diplomat reported today that their population is evolving rapidly and advancing into a fifth-dimensional consciousness.
He was instrumental in
they are seeking peace with all cosmic cultures, which may mean that the Earth will be asked to join the prestigious Galactic Federation of Light Alliances.
He did all the artwork for
Please
the
join
1111
Debbie West
Star
and
Symbols
Michael
book
Hathaway
that
on
Chief has
Lost
talked about on Ancient Aliens and whatnot.
Saturdays,
And
3 p.m.
he said, "Which one
Eastern
would you
Standard
like?" And I
Time
said, "Well,
in Studio A.
you pick for me."
For the
So he looked
latest
and
breaking
had about
news
15
on the Star
He
Visitors
takes one printing,
Peaceful
he
Contact and
signs
the
it for me.
ongoing project.
He hands it to me. He
of
goes, "One day
cleansing
you'll realize
the
why I
Earth."
gave you this." So I'm thinking,
Who are you?
Okay.
I
You know what I
am
mean? It's
the
just
architect.
One of those other things like
I created the Matrix.
I call it the
I've been waiting
WTF
for you.
drawer in my
Why am I
mind.
here?
It's
You
getting
are
quite
the
filled up,
eventuality
but-
of an anomaly
So
which,
I go
despite
to
my
the
sincerest
Serpent Mound.
efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise
crazy
a
stuff is
harmony
going down.
of
And I
mathematical
ended up
precision.
I'm
Which
sorry,
has led
someone's
you
let me know that
inexorably
the break just started.
here.
So,
You haven't answered my question. The Matrix is older than
so
you know,
I'll
as you
we'll
are
be back
undoubtedly
in
gathering
7
the anomaly is
minutes,
systemic,
okay?
creating fluctuations in even the most simplistic equation. Choice.
Right back.
The problem is choice.
There we go.
Right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Be here Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Private Eye Matrix Revealed with Monique Lissar.
I'll be right back.
Okay, thank you. Stay tuned, everyone.
Hello, my name is Mr. Rowe. I am the host of Reality Extraction for Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I utilize logic, intellect, and magic to methodically atomize, vivisect, analyze, examine, study, scrutinize, and extract an essence of reality from the fog of illusion and confusion. You can find me on Studio B every Thursday, 1700 hours Pacific Time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern. No topic taboo, no subject too strange. I strive to take a neutral standpoint during the dissection of the topic at hand. That's Reality Extraction with Mr. Rowe on Revolution Radio.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Thanks for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we are listener-sponsored and commercial-free. But there still are bills to pay. In order to raise some needed funds to cover the cost, our station is offering a silver special. In the continental United States for a $60 donation, or in Alaska, Hawaii, or Canada for a $70 donation, we will send you an uncirculated 2018 1-ounce pure silver eagle. The $70 donation, the extra 10 is to cover shipping, by the way, outside of the continental United States. When making the donation, you must put Silver Eagle promo in the notes on the donation. And thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at revolution.radio and freedomslips.com. Without you, there is no us. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps. For a $70
Collision Courses back. Schedule will be on Revolution Radio every Saturday night, 6 to 8 p.m. You get outer space. You get honest answers, real researchers, truthful answers, and a place to engage with questions. Take part in the discussion. Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com hosts Collision Course every Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Time.
Do you or someone you know suffer from poor circulation, shortness of breath, or chest pains? Are you looking for a more natural solution to help overcome these problems? People tell us that after just a few months taking Extendivite, their doctors have noticed unexplainable improvements in their overall health. For more information, visit heartdrop.com or call 1-877-928-8822.
And tell them Nighthawk sent you, because if you call this number and tell them Nighthawk sent you, you'll get $5 off your first order
poor
at
circulation, shortness of breath, or chest pain.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host. The opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
All right. Well, welcome back, everyone. That was quite a ride. Wow.
Yes, indeed.
I don't know what's going on with all that. I do want to thank Wally Ladd for checking in with me and telling me about that we would just talk right over. So thank you, Wally, for helping a sister out on that. So welcome to the show back. And that was quite a break there. And welcome back. We have Michael Lee Hill on the show for the next hour. I'm really thrilled to have him here. We were just talking about the Archangel Michael ley line, which we will get to after he talks about Chief Golden Light Eagle and the symbol painting that he gave you. And welcome back, Michael. And everyone can reach you at michaelleehill.net. And I have that in the comment box on Facebook. So welcome back, Michael. And we should not be interrupted till the end of the show. Whoop, whoop.
That was different, huh?
Yes. I've only been doing this for 4 years, so.
It was like being stuck in a time warp.
It
was kind of fun.
Yeah. Thank you for rolling with it pretty easily.
Man, like I said, you got to roll with the punches to get to what's real. Can't you see me standing here? I got my back against the record machine. Sorry. I told you I quote David Lee Roth every once in a while. It happens. Okay, first of all, Chief Golden Light Eagle, his brother is, he passed now. He dropped his robes. He was Chief Blue Star Eagle. And there's a lot of people that are from really high dimensional levels that are incarnated right now. And what's going to get interesting dealing with the Archangel Michael thing is, there was what was called the Lost Tribe of Israel, right? The Sangreal, the Holy Grail. What's weird is I am not typically religious or Christian, and these titles meant nothing to me growing up. But what I'm finding out now is that bloodline, the Sangreal Holy Grail, now comes in through the Native American Indians. Edgar Cayce knew this as well. A lot of people know Edgar Cayce talked about the Atlantean Hall of Records being under the Sphinx's paw and all that, but he also talked about what happened to the Atlanteans. He said that there's actually 3 breakups. One was 51,000 years ago. One was 27,000 years ago, which lines up with the biblical deluge, the biblical flood. And then 10,500 years ago was the last breakup, the earth change that took out Atlantis. He said the elders stayed behind with the sinking ship, so to speak. And 10,500 years ago, after the last earth change, the Atlanteans, which is so weird. I just seen the movie Aquaman. It's all about this. It cracks me up. His name's King Arthur, But anyhow, so the bloodline comes in. This is Edgar Cayce. He said the other 2 earth changes, this bloodline went to the right and went to the European continent, and over there, like the Basque, people that there've been a mystery with their blood. But the last, the elders, like I said, stayed behind with the sinking ship. They went to the left for the first time 10,500 years ago. They came up into the bottom of the North American continent, meeting the Mayan indigenous people first. And, the Mayans even said, there was this big white dude showed up and showed us how to build pyramids and make this calendar that's more accurate than even the calendars we use now. But we can get into this. I don't know if today, but, there was an experiment to help mankind consciously evolve, put into place 27,000 years ago by the Anunnaki. This experiment was mankind, in all of their ability to look into the future, we weren't going to be prepared for this time we're going through, because in this time of very low magnetics, which is all over the news right now, that looks like we're in for a magnetic pole reversal, and it gets very low. And they said that in these times of low magnetics, the idea of this reality being a reflected reality, the time lag between the thought and the manifestation of the thought collapses down to 0. So meaning, let's just say 2,000 years ago, you went, I think Wilma is a really bad person. And then, 2 days goes by and you realize you mistook the whole situation and it wasn't how you thought it was. So you go, Wilma's pretty cool, actually. But if you have no time, and okay, the point of all of this is the thought and the manifestation of thought have to have an energy stamp for it to manifest into physical reality. So if there's a time lag between them, you have a chance to change your mind. But as that time lag gets closer and closer, you don't have any time to change your mind. And when that thought comes back, if you've not changed it, it's going to have the same energetic signature, and it's going to manifest into your life. And it's negative or fear-filled or doubt-filled. It's not, no one's doing it but ourselves, you know. But so the Atlanteans said, mankind is not going to purge their collective shadow in time. What could we do to help? And this came in with the whole biblical Noah, you know, building an ark, saving the DNA. But what the Pleiadians, you know, they brought this to the table and said, mankind is not, they don't have enough time to purge the shadow. And if you evolve technologically and not spiritually, it's not a good combo to have a lot of garbage still left in your belief system at this time of low magnetics. So they said, why even do this experiment of yours, Enki, to save this human race if they're not going to evolve fast enough to transmute their shadow? They're going to self-implode. They'll destroy themselves with nuclear bombs or pollute this planet to the point that we kill ourselves. Remember the question I posed before, how has water got to this pitiful condition? But they said, so why even do this experiment to try to help them if they're going to self-implode? So they had to go back to the thinking table. And what I brought to the table, I'm saying because it's been hard for me to step into these shoes, but like I told you, they told me I was Enki the water bearer in the past, and at this point in my life, I feel almost like it would be blasphemy not to step into those shoes, because the universe has went through some unbelievable lengths to communicate that in a multidimensional way. But anyhow, I am Enki here in these human clothes. But it gets into what happened here, because the Pleiadians said, why even spend the energy to save this race that you think has so much potential? Because my brother didn't. He looked at us as slave labor. They said, why save? Yes. And we know each other now, by the way, and I've met him in the flesh, and he's truly my brother, and there's lots of brotherly love flowing. I looked him in the eye. I said, you know, spirits brought me to understand that you are Enlil, Yahweh, my brother. He said, yes, I've done some pretty messed up things. That was his first words to me. And he said, but no one knows who Enlil or Yahweh is anymore anyhow, so I just go by Chief. Oh, that's a big hint.
Got it.
But so the Pleiadians say, why spend this energy if 99 out of 100 probable outcomes, probable realities, mankind self-implodes? So they went back to the think tank, and I thought of this idea. Hey, what if we put this experiment, this reflected reality? Right now it's pretty big, people are starting to realize, wait a minute, we're in a reflected reality, a simulation, an illusion, but it's a very real illusion, and what you take out of it matters. But anyhow, said, what if we made mankind experience its own mental energy in an accelerated fashion, unbiasedly, that if you put out fear, then you get to experience the stupidity of where you're placing your energy and attention up close and personal. And there's a multi-dimensional force who is there to make you experience it. I call him Team Bad Cop. If you think fear, truly it's in hopes you'll change it. They'll show you where that thinking leads. And I'll tell you, I've also been brought before the 7 Lords of Light, 7 Lords of Darkness, Thoth. It's in the 7th tablet of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. The Atlantean is the 7 Lords, and I was brought before them. It's Dark Side is the Lady of the Lake. It's Cthulhu. That's in the new movie Aquaman as well. I couldn't believe what they were releasing. This does all come back to Archangel Michael, by the way. I know these stories just loop, and maybe that's what happened in the break. But anyhow, so they said, what if we do this experiment to make mankind experience its own mental energy in an accelerated fashion? And the idea of it is we should evolve faster. Because if you put out fear and you get fear back 10 times, you should learn faster. You should learn 10 times faster would be the hopes. But in the same way, it's totally unbiased because there's a team good cop. And if you put out love and try to focus your energy on things that uplift the human spirit and soul, if you want to call it that, I like it. Then that will happen as well. But they told me, though, this experiment that we're talking about to accelerate light and dark mental energy was only for the time of Pisces. They said everything, their own succession of kingship and how they relate to humanity and overseeing our evolution is based on the precessional cycle. And I want to say, too, because as I said, when we get into the testing of the water and stuff with Richard Hoagland saying, NASA knows, they've been looking into multidimensional, how energy works multidimensionally for a long time. And he said, the numbers you're bringing to the table, your 432 knowledge that they're giving you is right on the money because NASA's been looking into it very deeply for a while. He said, what's really toasting their noodle, that's my words, not his, is that all of these 432 base numbers are already encoded into our precessional cycle because that's it's approximately 27,000 year long cycle that's created by the Earth's wobble. And that really has, it kind of freaked me out a little bit. Like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? How is the Earth's wobble fallen into these precise geometries? But so anyhow, they said, let's try to accelerate their experiencing their own mental energy. That might work, but they said it's never been tried before. So this is the Pleiadians, talking to, because what people need to know is, first of all, the Anunnaki, there's two separate bloodlines. The king of that world, his name was Anu, and his partner was a Pleiadian queen. They had a child. The firstborn, his name was Ea. And he later became known as Enki, which is a title. It's not a name. It's kind of like the Dalai Lama, It's not a name. It's a title. But he was the firstborn and raised to be prince. But at a certain time, Anu severed that relationship with the Pleiadian queen who had the offspring, Ea, who was the first hybrid of the Anunnaki, by the way. Then he took on an Anunnaki female and had another son who was known as Enlil, or Yahweh, or my brother, my younger brother. And so what had happened was, I'm trying to figure out how to loop this all together. With Enki's Pleiadian side, when his race was going to let mankind perish and not lift a finger to help, instead of listening to their orders, which was you could have your head taken off if you disobeyed an order from the king, but I did, because what had happened was their own succession of kingship, a pure blood gets the throne over a half blood. I was half blood. I was half Pleiadian. So the Pleiadian thing fits into all this, because that's what's interesting too, because the Anunnaki have been thrown under the proverbial bus as the ones behind all the secret societies and, controlling humanity. And first of all, then you hear them talk about the Pleiadians. They're like, the Pleiadians are all love and light and they're beautiful. And all my guides are Pleiadians. And I'm like, half the Anunnaki are Pleiadian. But anyhow, I digress. That the Pleiadians said, we're not going to allow this experiment. You can't just do that to upcoming consciousness when it's never been tried in the bigger picture, the bigger reality, the bigger universe. This has never been tried to make an upcoming species experience its own mental energy, without you going through it yourself. Ooh. You becoming human and walking a mile in their moccasins, and you being brought before the council. Every human on this planet will have a turn before that mysterious Council of Nine. It's really 7. There's 2 unseen members. So when you hear people talk about the Council of Nine, it's the same as the Council of 7. Because there's, like I said, then that gets into the 7 Lords of Light, 7 Lords of Darkness. There's a great episode on Ancient Aliens on this, by the way. And it is called The Mysterious Nine. It's on this council that's been known through, every world's religion and everything. And they're the ones, there's 7 light and 7 dark, and they will weigh your soul to see really where you stand when you pass away. And some humans are brought before them before if they're chosen, that maybe you're a clean vessel and you've done your spiritual homework. The dark are tricky, though. They know that's the Cthulhu aspect. It's this multidimensional being that knows what scares you. It knows what pushes the fear buttons. Those things need to be transmuted. So in this time frame, what I was told is no one's got past. That's why we live in a world that's archonic, controlled. It's because we've totally, as a race, as a species, given our energy away to an illusionary outside source. That came from Yahweh himself personally. Said that any one of us, once you stand up and say, no, I don't allow anything that offends my soul, I will go to the grave for it. That's valor, They found, you know what he told me? He said the trickiest way they have to get any of us to enter their territory is through love and compassion. Think about that for a minute. But so they said, unless you're willing to go down into the human vessel, forget who you are, because think about this. If you were going to make an experiment to accelerate human conscious evolution, wouldn't you want some way of testing to see how the experiment's going? That's the council. It's the round table. Again, it's Archangel Michael. It's King Arthur, Merlin.
Well, and probably from that perspective, it sounds pretty easy, right?
It's the easiest thing. All you got to do is be a decent person when you're brought before them. But you know what? They're right. Fear. Here's what happened is it was I was brought before the council at a really revered ceremony for Native Americans, but it involves a flesh and blood sacrifice. Same thing as gift wrap differently for the Illuminati. It's and I told him I wouldn't do it. The chief there, and that's when I'll tell you his words were, "Spirit is so glad you did not enter their territory, because Spirit looks at anybody who participates in these flesh and blood sacrifice ceremonies as prostitutes." Big lesson that I learned there about standing up into your sovereignty and reclaiming your I am. Because he said, once you say no, I will not, no matter what you try to trick me with that dark carrot to make me do something that offends my soul. Once you say no, you invoke your own galactic free will, and the veil of darkness has to fall away. The team of darkness has no more work to do here. And what's really interesting is it only takes one, because we're all one. And even though we all do it for each other, so that's what happened. I was brought into the halls of Amenti. I was brought before Yahweh, and he said, Michael, once all this went down, like I said, this had to do with flesh and blood sacrifices. And there was a gentleman who was pulling about 7 buffalo skulls behind himself, and they were attached to his. It's horrific. And he could tell I was sitting next to him, next to the chief's thing, which was really freaking people out anyhow. Like, that's forbidden for someone to sit there, But chief had me sitting there. And right when that gentleman was pulling the buffalo skulls in front of us around the circle, he could see it was really affecting me, like, badly. And he goes, Michael, just remember there's a million ways to pull those buffalo skulls behind oneself. That's only one. These are such spiritual truths that I'm here to share, but it's weird because these are people I know, and it's like I don't like I'm trying to do this delicately, you know.
Right.
But, so
respect to everyone.
Yes. Because that's the first time, by the way, how I shut down that festival is he told me, he said there's mind control to get people to do things that offend their soul. You know, if you keep going down that path right now, you'll be eventually asked to make puppy soup. And it's as horrible as what you can imagine. That never has to happen, never needed to happen. Mm-hmm. But he said, I've never told anyone that they can't get out of that circle and go get a drink of water. They're doing this to themselves. Yeah. It's all about, how did he put it? This is all about self-inflicted suffering brought about through one's own free will. That's what he said. So anyhow, the bloodline comes in through the Native American Indians, and that's why it's most prominent there. So getting back to what this bloodline is when the Pleiadians said, why do this experiment and save this race of people that you think has so much potential? Why even save them if they're going to self-implode? So it was decided, what if Enki's side of the Anunnaki incarnated as humans to try to steer the experiment from under the radar, you know, behind enemy lines, so to speak. And because if you could come in as a human, and they use memory blocks to be brought to represent mankind before this council that was put together to oversee human evolution, to stand before that council, you can come from no higher frequency than the average human. So to enable this, we're in a 12th grade class level for Anunnaki. Mankind's at a 9th grade level. It's just that simple. It's not, but because of the different energetics, of course, Enki had already went against his own kind to come here and help humanity make it through this, because my brother and the rest of the Anunnaki were going to let mankind perish in the flood. And we tried to incarnate into the human vessel and have memory blocks installed, so we couldn't come in at any higher level than the normal human. No cheating allowed, you know. You will forget everything and you will represent humanity. But if one of us could not be taken over by the darkness, it only takes one, because we are truly all one. We're all connected. Quantum physicists and physics are now telling us that. So yeah, we incarnated into the human genome, and we became what was known as the Nephilim. Unknown part of the story is, though, the first time we tried to incarnate, we most of the time spontaneously combusted and just burst into flames, because the human suit is not capable of the energetics of the Anunnaki soul signature. So, well, again, we had to go back to the think tank, right? Because that kind of sucks. I don't really want to burst into flames. And, loving mankind and everything, that's cool. But this is a little, anything we can do here, you know? And they said, well, what if we made an offshoot of the human vessel that had more chi or prana available at a cellular level? This loops back to the creatine kinase, you see. They said, what if we made this enzyme that would release creatine kinase at incredible levels, which would bring incredible levels of oxygen, which brings an incredible level of chi or prana or life force into the cell. Mm-hmm. And so that is the true birth of the Nephilim. And that's what happened when I met the Anunnaki in 2008. And they said, we were once known as the Anunnaki in your past. And this is in the physical, by the way. This, this is me talking to them in the physical. Mm-hmm. They said, I spun out. I'm sorry.
2008, the Anunnaki and the Nephilim that they were talking about.
Yeah. They said that that's why they wanted to talk to me at first. They said, we heard that you had a blood anomaly revealed on the History Channel, the UFO Hunter show, and we want to tell you it's truly an indicator of our hybrid bloodline on this planet that was once known as the Nephilim. Mm-hmm. And they said the Nephilim had become known as this Holy Grail, Sangreal. It's the Anunnaki human hybrid bloodline. By the way, I met with Graham Hancock last year because his new book is coming out next month. I'm so excited. It's called America Before. He's going to be revealing all of this, that this is all these shows that he's done where he's been looking for Quest for the Lost Civilization. This is the book of, hey, I found the lost civilization. They're the Native American Indians.
It's in your backyard, right? It's right in your backyard.
It is. That's the part I'm revealing, and I talked to him, is East Lake, Ohio is ground zero. It's the first place that the mound builders, once they left the Mayan culture. And like I said, this is Edgar Cayce too. He said they became known as what is the North American Indian mound builders, the Atlanteans. And they kept going up through the middle of the North American continent until they dead-ended at the Great Lakes, at Lake Erie. And East Lake, Ohio is home place, and the Hall of Records that Edgar Cayce spoke of is in East Lake, Ohio, and it's unpilfered. Isn't it mind-blowing? And it takes a mile and a half to walk around it. I've been all over it. I had another incarnation, which gets back to Chief Golden Light Eagle, by the way, and the whole traveling to Florida, is how the Iroquois were united was another incarnation of Enki's, of mine, and I was known as the Peacemaker. And the Peacemaker brought union to the warring tribes of the Iroquois, because the Iroquois, 5 tribes at that point, had been at war with one another for a very long time, generation after generation. That's a whole nother story, but East Lake, Ohio, the mound site is there. But what's cool is a guy from the Smithsonian called me and said, are you aware that there's artifacts that were removed out of that mound that are in the East Lake Willoughby school system that tie it to ancient Sumer? And I'm like, no, And sure enough, I went there, and it's the Morning Star is on an artifact that the Smithsonian dug up out of that mound, and it's unknown. And I grew up in that city, and no one knows it's there. They think it's a big pile of dirt. But the artifacts, all that's going to be revealed to the world very soon. And I'm working with a group from Serpent Mound who has ground-penetrating, 4th dimensional ground-penetrating radar. Those are his own words. I'm like, what the hell what is that? But they're going to be able to scan the whole mound and see exactly what's in it before they even take a pinch of dirt out of it. But the Peacemaker, he became known, his symbol was the olive branch, because the Iroquois went after this chief that wasn't going along with the plans, because this is a part of the story that no one really understands, and it's going to become so important in the very near future. The Iroquois tribes, like I said, were at war with one another, not with just one another, but internally. Darkness had set in even within their own psyches. They were warring inside themselves and with each other. Well, there's one chief there that in the Peacemaker story, it's been turned into a hideous male war chief, shaman. It's truly White Buffalo Calf Woman. And you can imagine that's her mound there. And I've visited her mound here in Florida, which we can get into that as well. That's who I'm living with. Boy, it's much sorry, my love. I'm going to totally lose thought on that. Okay. So you can see why, if the Iroquois tribes were all at war with one another, and then you have this very advanced Pleiadian incarnated into the Native American Indian bloodline known as White Buffalo Calf Woman, she was like, no, I see how you're treating this planet. I see how you're treating Mother Nature. I see how you're treating yourselves, and I see how you're treating each other. And I want no part of your union. And so Hiawatha, which everyone knows the name Hiawatha, but they don't know the story that I'm telling you. And it's important. So I'm glad. Thank you for the opportunity to tell it. So Hiawatha says something's got to change because we need peace. And a lot of the Iroquois looked at this female war chief that wasn't going along with the plan as the cause of the problems. So Hiawatha united all of them with the arrow to go after her. And they got their asses handed to them. So when they got back, they all went back with their tails between their legs because it's not a good idea to go up against the trickster. Look at the Skinwalker Ranch, what happens when you go at this intelligence with the arrow. It doesn't end, even though they didn't kill anyone there. But, in her own words, she said, yeah, if someone came at me in the past with an arrow, I would take that arrow from them and kill them with their own arrow. But she said, I'd like to think I've evolved to the point now of deflecting that arrow and making sure it doesn't hit another human, another living thing, period. I thought that was a beautiful thing that came out of her mouth. But so the peacemaker.
So she has compassion for humanity.
Yes, she has more compassion for this planet, and she gets really pissed with what we're doing with the water. Which is why it's so important. It's been granted to heal this planet's water. And it's real. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Right now, if Donald Trump contacts me and says, I will fund for every single person on this planet to receive a 432 coaster that will revitalize this planet's waterways, I will comply. Hey, I think I put that out to the universe.
You have a lot of helpers that would help you make that happen.
What's beautiful was we don't need his help. We can do this at a grassroots movement. It only takes 3% of us. The whole 100th monkey, I'm sure you're familiar with that story. Mm-hmm. Well, the 100th monkey, they have it as once a 7% threshold. So if 7 monkeys obtain a new way of doing something that's more evolved, it'll spread to the other 100 monkeys, the ones that have not even been taught. But when I was brought into the NSA reverse engineer AR Borden group, I learned it's only 3%. That's the biggest secret. So it only takes 3% of us vibrating in a bigger, a more love-filled, more compassionate way that it will spread throughout the whole mass consciousness. But so from a grassroots movement even, it doesn't take many of us with compassion and love and intent to heal the water. Mm-hmm. Think about being able, because first of all, once you go out and take this water and dump it in the river, the water is going to evaporate. It's going to become clouds. It's going to come down as rain. It's going to clear. And think of, what?
Yeah.
Mind-blowing in it. And, when water has memory, I'm starting to understand it is the physical library of the Akashic records. It's what's storing. And think of all the water that's been running through a closed loop through our municipal tap water, and it's accumulating all this negativity. Dr. Emoto's work shows that when water is inundated with negative, hate-filled thought forms, it loses its dim. And then we drink it, and our cells are not nourished because we've killed our water. It's mind-blowing in my mind, but this is a way to heal this planet's municipal tap water. It's truly a miracle. And like I said, it doesn't take many of us going out and pouring it, because think of one drop of it will do another glass of water. One drop of it, near Serpent Mound, there's a creek that eventually hits both oceans, on both sides. So I've already done it, by the way. I've already done Lake Erie, I've done the ocean here, and I've done that creek that hits the two oceans with 432 water. But I want to get us all involved with this. Yeah. All of us become water bearers. I think this is such a beautiful thing because, so many new age, people that want to do something and they're not had anything to do. This is a way to circumvent, because imagine if you're cleaning the Akashic records of all this negative thought forms that have been accumulated in dead water that we've been drinking in our city tap water for a very long time. What effect will that have on the whole? I think it's heaven on earth.
It's huge, yeah.
Yeah. Or it's just good weed. That's the name of my book. Oh, St. Michael ley line, St. Michael, Ea, yes. King Arthur, all one and the same. Maitra, all one and the same. Ptah.
Ptah and Ra. How about Ra?
Ra is Marduk. That would be my son. I've met him as well. That's who I met first of all in 2008. It was Marduk. Which is, didn't know it at the time, obviously, if I didn't know who the Anunnaki was. Now I understand why he had such a reaction when he scanned my third eye and they hit your Akashic and find out exactly who you are. And his attitude changed. He got down on his knees and was in tears. And before that, there was death threats coming out. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, whoa, what just happened, man? This is a change in attitude. And they're like, we've been waiting for you to arrive and to reveal yourselves. And now that you're here, we want to have a council meeting, if it's okay with you. I'm like, what? You were just telling me you're going to kill me. You know what they told me they were upset about? Why? So UFO researchers will get this. He said, do you know of a young man named David Sarita that was on Coast to Coast? I said, yes. He said, do you know anything about him revealing information from a senior scientist from Lockheed Martin named Boyd Bushman? I said, yeah, I know everything about it. That's my movie that I partnered with David on. And he was pissed. He's like, how could this happen? I work for a group of people. It's J. Allen Hynek's group, family still, by the way. And he said, we decide what gets released to humanity for a very long time on the extraterrestrial subject, and this information was not on the list. How could that happen? I looked him in the eye. I said, because I willed it into manifestation. I think it's bullshit that this information that could help mankind evolve has been kept from humanity. That sparked his curiosity, by the way. So what happened was, again, Chief Golden Light Eagle brings me in to start speaking at the Star Knowledge Conference, which is, I was adopted, so I never knew of my Native American Indian heritage, by the way. It wasn't until after the UFO Hunters show in 2008, I contacted my biological birth mother and met my two sisters as well. And that's when I found out Eric Clapton is my biological father. I don't talk about that a lot because I know what it sounds like, but it is the truth. And that's when I found out of my Seneca Iroquois heritage, almost pure blood. And so
it's kind of like you have to reveal yourself to yourself, this unfolding, right? After another of who you are, and then owning that and grokking that and feeling that on for size to be able to then bring it to the world.
You know what's weird, Barbara, is that's exactly when I met them in 2008. After I told him I willed that movie into manifestation, and he found out I was the one that was contacting them and with the Lake Erie UFOs. He said, we need to know what you know. And he brought out a wand that had like a purple diode, and I felt it stimulate my pineal gland, the third eye. Felt good, actually. And I said, truth serum. I said, have at it. I'm an open book. And that's when, it was revealed to them who I truly am. And he said, we're going to remove your memory blocks. Because as I said, to represent mankind before the Council of 12, because here's what Chief told me, Yahweh Enlil. He said, Michael, I work with the 7 Lords of Light and the 7 Lords of Darkness, and I'm the only one who sits in the middle of those two sides of 7 light, 7 dark, or 7 war chiefs and 7 peace chiefs, they're called within the Native American Indian communities. And he said, I'm the only one, though, that sits directly in the middle of the two, and I'm the only one who holds a seat on both councils, light and dark. So if you think about this, if there's 7 light and 7 dark, but Yahweh Enlil holds one seat on each. That only leaves 6 on each side. 6 and 6 is 12. So the reason I'm saying this, a lot of people will tell you they're in contact with this council of 12 or a council of 9 or a council of 7, all one and the same. But so he brings me in. Well, first of all, I want to say, so late 2008, I find out I'm Iroquois. Never knew my heritage at all, ever growing up in my life. So my first thought was, man, wouldn't it be cool if I could meet like chiefs of different tribes of Native Americans and learn what they learned, and because I'd heard they had been in contact with star beings for a very long time. And I thought, well, how beautiful would it be? Then my next thought again was like, well, how the hell is that ever going to happen? I'm like a white dude in my mind, you know what I mean? Like, why is an Indian chief going to all of a sudden go, oh yeah, here, come on in? But what happened was I was speaking at a conference in Columbus called Angels and Aliens. And Chief Golden Light Eagle was speaking there, and he just walked up to me out of the blue. First of all, he said, so you're from one of those tribes up around the Great Lakes, huh? And I said, yeah, I'm Iroquois Seneca. He goes, you're one of those Atlanteans, heavy duty. And he walked away. I'm like, what? And by the way, one of the grandmothers contacted me and said, we're so happy that you're revealing that the mound builders are truly the remnants of the Atlanteans, because we've known it within 5,000 years of written history and 10,000 years of oral history that the Atlanteans became the mound builders, and they now have the largest numbers within the Iroquois tribe of Indians, but the Sioux tribes of Indians, the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota, have retained their star knowledge more so than any other tribe. That's how it's looking right now. But so, I'm thinking, well, I'm just going to let that go. Next thing I know, Chief walks up to me, tells me, oh, you're one of those Atlanteans, heavy duty. Then he walks up to me later and he said, Michael, would you come and speak at my Star Knowledge conferences? I need the Nephilim ambassadors there. I need your energy there. I'm looking around like, is he talking to me? And sure enough, he started bringing me in as a keynote speaker. And the reason I'm saying this is what happened. First of all, is I walked into one of these conferences, and he stops the conference and he goes, Archangel Michael is here. And I'm going, okay, that's funny, Chief. Everyone turned around and looked at me too. It's like really awkward. You know what I mean? Like,
go blend, right? You just go.
Oh, okay. But this got a little weirder for me because Archangel Michael, I'm not Christian. These things, these labels. He came up to me and he said, Michael, do you know before you're known as Ea in Sumer, you were known as Archangel Michael? I said, no. I had no clue whatsoever. But what happened then is, after being brought before this council, the 7 Lords of Light, the 7 Lords of Darkness. By the way, I'll tell you what happened afterwards is one of the grandmothers came up to me and she said, Michael, you are, excuse me. She said, Michael, you are the rainbow we've been waiting for. She said, every one of our human chakras, when it's spinning freely and is unencumbered, emits light, and they emit the colors of the rainbow, from red in the root to purple in the crown. And she said to those of them that had the gift of sight, that I had become the whirling rainbow. And she said that each chakra had a double tetrahedron, a spinning vortex, and that once someone cleans their chakras, it's the 7 seals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what Chief Blue Star Eagle said is, spirit never gives any extra manifestation ability to anyone who hasn't cleaned their 7 seals, or cracked the 7 seals, cleaned their 7 chakras, became the rainbow. Because even if one of those chakras is still dark and all of a sudden you're granted extra manifestation ability, what do you think is going to happen?
Sure.
So, it's the gateway to higher dimensional realms is you doing your own spiritual homework. The NSA called it bootstrap evolution. You're in charge of grabbing your bootstraps and, pulling up your shorts. So at this point, I think it's really strange. I don't associate myself with Archangel Michael, but at this at the next Star Knowledge Conference, which happened after being brought into the halls of Amenti, being brought before the council, the next one.
Can I ask you real quick? Were they faceless?
No.
Okay.
One. Actually, I don't know how much time we got. These things go.
We have like 7 minutes or something.
You know what? It'll have to be for another time. But there's some they manifested in the flesh, and the head of the 7 Lords of Darkness was really happy because he felt like he had found a way to get me to accept the dark carrot, and he was very vocal about it. But it's a long story, so it'll have to be for next time. Sorry, listeners.
Next time, sure.
But for my naming ceremony, where I said the grandmother said, you're the rainbow we've been waiting for, and she gave me a journal. And this journal had a giant eagle on it. And she said, this is the write down your revelations. And when you get up, if you have insight. And she said, I want you to notice there's a giant eagle. Well, what I was, the Native American Indian name I was given is Rainbow Warrior Eagle. And during that ceremony, when I was given the name, they returned Archangel Michael's sword of truth to me in the physical. It's this beautiful crystal sword.
I saw that on your
Yeah. It's like, I'm not making this up. You know what I mean? Like, no matter what, here it is in my hand, and it has. It has the serpent and the egg going down the shaft. And they said it was created in the same way the crystal skulls were, and you should see when it hits sunlight and all the rainbow shows up inside the crystal. It's pretty freaking mind-blowing. What's interesting is the end of the sword has a fleur-de-lis, which is interesting in itself. But, man, I'm going to have to cram this in. So I get the Archangel Michael sword. I'm like, okay, that's strange. So I told you about the 7-pointed star and relating to 432 and them guiding me into this. One night, this voice keeps telling me, Michael, you got to get up and divide a circle by 7. Divide a circle by 7. And I do. And like I said, I many times I had to wake Sarah up and go, honey, I got to go do math. So I go, I'm like 360 divided by 7. 51.428. And I'm thinking, well, I wonder if that's important in any way. I go and look. First of all, it's the pyramid slope of the pyramids in Giza are 51.428. Then the next day I'm like, okay, I get it. And they said, picture in your mind a circle and now go 1/7 away around the circle and picture that, like highlight it in your third eye with a red third eye marker and pop that out of the circle, let the rest of the circle fall away. And then they showed me that arc coming, mirroring with itself. So it would make an eye shape, right? If you follow me.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, I wonder what a 7-pointed star would look like made with those. They said, Michael, this is the Ark of the Covenant. This is what leads mankind to this new unlimited energy source. And so I said, I want to see this as a 7-pointed star. Do you know the next day they put one in the crops in the UK? And they showed that new symbol. It's a new seed of life. Our old seed of life made a 6-petaled version that made the Merkaba. And now we got a new 7-petaled version that's, imagine, fertile ground for mankind's consciousness to evolve into. But anyhow, they put it into a crop circle. I said, oh, my God. So then I'm looking more into this 51.428. Guess what I found out?
What?
The Earth's latitude line of 51.428, which is a 7-pointed star. It's the 1/7 away around a circle. It's the slope of the pyramids. Earth's latitude line of 51.428 is the line that runs through England and Avebury and Stonehenge. And but then guess what it's called?
What?
The St. Michael ley line.
The Michael ley line.
So,
of course it is.
In the story, I look at the crop circle and I post it online, and someone is kind enough. They go, dude, do you know this is the seal of the 7 archangels that you just willed into existence? And sure enough, in like Gnostic old texts, there's a 7 a seal that has all 7 archangels, which Michael was the head of, that council. And that's what it is. So again, sometimes it's almost blasphemous for me to not acknowledge these are previous incarnations. We've all had many, many names. I like to say, no name can contain me. I've had so many names. What I am is truly nameless, but not voiceless.
Oh, that's for sure. And you're learning that more and more, right? And can we back up to one thing with the chief where he gave you a painting and on that was a symbol he chose for you? Could we?
Yeah. What happened was, as I said, I met my fiance who has, DNA heritage ties to White Buffalo Calf Woman, we'll just say that. And we met at the eclipse. In the Peacemaker story, this war chief that wasn't going along with the plans moved away from her people and moved to a place of swamps and alligators and snakes and spiders. And right there in the story of the Peacemaker, it shows, well, that's not the Great Lakes area, but it never says where it is. Well, it's Florida. And that's what Chief told me, Michael, you're going to Florida because at that time of the Peacemaker, the Peacemaker traveled to Florida to bring unity and peace. And people don't know how he got union. Well, we married each other back then. You know what I mean? Oh. It's the feminine and masculine coming together. And truly, if this doesn't happen, we won't even go there. It was almost tribulation by fire. Because like I said, she's not happy with the way we've treated Mother Earth, but we can become better caretakers and custodians, and we can all become water bearers, right? And so
that's and thank you, Mike.
Cool.
Michael, thank you so much.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Hey, Michael.
Thanks for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we are listener-sponsored and commercial-free, but there still are bills to pay. In order to raise some needed funds to cover the cost, our station is offering a silver special. In the continental United States for a $60 donation, or in Alaska, Hawaii, or Canada for a $70 donation, we will send you an uncirculated 2018 1-ounce pure silver eagle. The $70 donation, the extra 10 is to cover shipping, by the way, outside of the continental United States. When making the donation, you must put Silver Eagle promo in the notes on the donation. And thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at revolution.radio and freedomslips.com. Without you, there is no us. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Take a look around, kid. What do you see? Homes being foreclosed. People working 2-3 jobs just to put food on the table and still drowning in debt. Don't get me wrong. This country was founded on great ideals and principles. They've all been ruined by the banks. Open your eyes to the banks that are robbing you. You know who my favorite president was? Who? Thomas Jefferson. Because he saw all of this coming and tried to stop it. He fought the banks. JFK too, and they killed him for it. The banking institution is more dangerous than an army, he said. He also said that every generation needs a revolution, Jimmy. The American dream is just that. Just a dream. War is a continuation of politics, only by other means. Politics is a continuation of economics by other means. This is our bank. This is our war.